Good morning, everyone. We are going to get started. I am going to take a point of personal privilege and give a shout out to my boys in the audience and embarrass them a little bit. Say, Logan and Liam. So, the Solid Waste Authority Board meeting is called to order this morning at 9:30. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Flores.
There was
Mayor
a here
Marino.
from the back.
Commissioner Powell. Here. Commissioner Sachs. Here. Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Pelowitz, would you please provide the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Dear God, we seek your help with our affairs today. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and help us to make the best use of our own. We are of diverse opinion here, yet we wish to reach agreement satisfactory to all. Please share a little of your wisdom with us to help us do right by all concerned. Thank you for your heavenly blessing. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have an add-on, an addition, 9A1, suspension of the authority's race and gender conscious programs and gender identity references. We also have an amended 9D1. It's just a minor amendment in 9D1, which you have in front of you.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0, please. Board minutes. Is there a motion to adopt the board minutes from April 9, 2025?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
I'll make a motion we adopt the minutes for the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Small Business Advisory Committee.
May I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. 4B, Small Business Advisory Committee minutes. Is there a motion to receive and file?
Did that together.
You did them both? Fine. Number 5, consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything from consent?
I make a move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. That takes us to matters by the public. Cards. We have 2 cards.
We have 2 cards, Seth Ben and Dustin Fazio.
Morning, Commissioners. Your mic's not on.
Please see if your mic.
Hit the button.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have an exhibit here, but I have some smaller copies as well. Madam Clerk, if I could take these and go ahead and pass those up so you can look at them a little easier. Good morning. My name is Seth Bain. I'm a shareholder with Lewis, Lohman, and Walker. I'm here today on behalf of the South Indian River Water Control District, to which I serve as General Counsel. Also here today on behalf of all your residents who reside in that district and who have come to us with some issue. I'm joined today by the district's Supervisor of Operations, Dustin Fazio. I would start with the headline. The SWA collections have caused extensive, pervasive, and persistent damage to our district's infrastructure. This damage has destabilized roads, created erosion, and has an adverse impact on water quality in our district. It's the district's position that it is not its responsibility to shoulder the cost of repairing the necessary damage to the system that it did not create. By a little way of context, Sir Wicked, our 24-25 budget is $12.5 million. With this budget, we maintain the regional stormwater system of 20 square miles. We maintain 189 miles of paved and unpaved roads, 60 miles of canals, and 376 miles of swales. I would just contrast that with the SWA's budget of $380 million for the same year. When this issue was first brought to our attention, the district staff and engineers surveyed the district The map that I've given you represents the 1,196 damaged sites we cataloged. The district engineers estimate the damage equates to the removal of approximately 764 cubic yards of soil and approximately 4,600 square yards of sod. Our board directed the executive director to engage with the district to dialogue with your team to see if they could find a solution. Your staff requested that we provide them of those sites. We had 120 cataloged as significant major damage, and your team asked for those 120 sites. We gave them to them. They did their own analysis and said, oh yeah, of those 120 sites, 111 of them are wear and tear, and 17 were perhaps hauler damage. Their statement was something to the effect of the amount of time that has passed, it's hard to really say who was responsible for this, etc. And that designation of wear and tear, this notion that perhaps over time you could slowly chip away at our system and that would be just acceptable and we would have to bear that cost, we do not agree with. Upon that discussion and their response back, the offer that we got was to deliver a load of fill to a location of your choosing, which your team can use to repair the swales. A load of fill, 18 yards to repair the 764 cubic yards of fill that were missing, and no mention of sod, and then have our team do it.
Mr. Ben, if you could wrap it up.
Yeah,
briefly.
absolutely. Your team went on to say these damages went unreported, the SWA contractors denying responsibility. Our district's organized under 298. No one's allowed to damage our system, and if you do, we repair it, and we have the right to charge somebody double the cost of repairing it.
Thank you.
At the end of the day,
Mr.
the
Ben.
taxpayers are going to have to pay.
Mr. Ben.
Mr. Fazio, will you cede your 3 minutes to me?
I do not believe we accept,
You have his card.
oh, both cards.
Well, there's two cards, the two individuals.
So the other one needs to speak.
Okay, so
Well,
I will allow you to take his 3 minutes, but we are going to
I
start
only
the
need
clock.
I only need 1 more minute.
Okay.
The conclusion is the taxpayers of Palm Beach County are going to have to pay for this repair. It has to be done. And the reality is that we don't have the money to do it or the scale to do it. We would like you to direct your staff to work with us to repair at least the significant locations of damage and work on an operations plan that prevents this damage from occurring time and time again as it has throughout the entire district. That was a request. I'm here to answer any questions, and Dustin is here to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Weiss?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. In the past, I know you all have worked together with these types of situations. How long, normally, I think in the past you used to work together on a fairly timely basis. How long have they been allowing this to accrue before they advised that there were damage?
Well, typically in the past, there's been a relationship with the director, the responsible person with the district and the authority. And so whenever any damage was identified, it's brought to our attention and we go out and inspect it and then we investigate it. This is a unique claim in that they're claiming that over the past years that there's, by going out and looking now, that this is somehow the authority's responsibility, and without getting into anything because they have threatened litigation, but we simply dispute that the authority and or its waste hauler are responsible for every dot they have on their chart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And not litigation. There's a dispute.
Mr. Ben.
There's a dispute resolution process that we'd
Thank
rather
you.
not get involved in.
Next, we have public hearings, proposed budget for fiscal year 2026. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Sachs,
Yeah.
you want to speak? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I have a question. Sir, could you come back up to the podium? You are requesting today that we, as Solid Waste Authority, work together with your client to resolve this issue? Is that your request today?
That you would direct your staff to work with us to see if you couldn't help share the burden of the cost of repairing. At least, like I said, there's 120 major sites. I mean, the cost number for that is, our engineers estimate $70,000 for materials and labor for the 120 big gouges, like things that are really falling into disrepair, threatening the roads. And so we're looking for some opportunity to help share the burden of that cost and directing your staff to do so. That would be our request.
You haven't commenced litigation, have you?
No, ma'am, we
Okay.
have not.
Are we and I asked Administrator, are we working with this city to see if we can resolve this issue?
As has been stated, Mr. Gonsalves and his staff have been working with Sir Wicked, which is what we call them, to resolve this matter, but we have a significant disagreement as to the degree of responsibility of the parties, and that's why council is here today, is the fact that we have not been able to come to a conclusion. I'm willing to meet with their staff at any time to attempt to discuss the matter and resolve it, but beyond that, as I said, there was a meeting of their council where litigation was discussed, and that's really the issue we're in right now. So I'm more than willing to meet with anybody at any time.
You are.
To
I know.
discuss the matter, and if council and or their representatives want to sit down and have a conversation, I'm more than willing to do that.
I would just request some type of mediation, maybe a third-party mediator, anything in lieu of litigation.
Absolutely.
Which is expensive for the county.
Why we're here today.
Exactly. So I encourage you, sir, to continue to reach out. Mr. Pelowitz is very eager also to see if this issue can be mediated outside of the courthouse, because I hate to see litigation pursue. And I thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. And are you including the county attorney's office in any of these discussions and negotiations?
I will include Mr. Jones.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I'll be there.
That's good. Volunteer, yeah. Thank you. I think, yes, whatever we can do to mediate it outside of litigation is something that we need to do. Thank you, Mr. Pelowitz, and thank you, sir.
We appreciate that.
We have some lights, Mayor Marino.
Thank you, yes. Sir Wicked is in District 1 on the north end of the county, for those of you that don't know where it is. It is Indiantown Road, and the majority of the roads that Sir Wicked has are obviously, they're dirt roads, the majority of them, similar to Loxahatchee, similar to what might be Lake Worth Drainage District. Do they have a lot of dirt roads also? Do we have any issues? Has Lake Worth Drainage District come forward with anything like this?
Not that I'm aware of. Excuse me. Not that I'm aware of. But
So we're in a unique position here with Sir Wicked then?
well, I mean, we've had conversations with Indian Trail at times in the acreage as it relates to damage to swales. And again, if it's brought up, we deal with it, and the hauler is responsible for any damage they do, and they are required to repair it. And we have our database tracks damage, incidents of damage and repairs. So that does happen from time to time. But typically, it's pretty obvious if they hit a mailbox or they take a chunk out of the ground. But again, yes, it is an issue in some of these areas.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
So, what I'm hearing is a little concerning. Mr. Pelowitz, the red dots on this map, how far back do they go?
I'm not sure exactly. Mr. Gonsalves has been working with him directly, but it's here. I think it's what you're seeing there are, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're depressions or erosion or dead grass in a number of areas. And so when exactly and how that happened is the issue.
Yeah, and that's what I'm concerned with is if they're going to go back in history and inspect all the roads and single-handedly just blame SWA for road conditions or swale conditions, that concerns me that then this opens up the door for any entity out there, any municipality, to do the same. And then SWA has to carry that burden. I think if our policy is that it's on a one-off basis and they put a claim and we fix, then that should be the policy of the board. I also have a hard time with threatening litigation before us Once you threaten litigation, I think the conversation changes. And to me, that's, this is the first time I hear of this issue, sir. And you come before us here, you never ask for a meeting. You threaten our team with litigation. And I don't need a response from you.
Yeah.
I don't need a response.
Understood.
But, that's not how you act in good faith. So you can't go back, inspect your roads, and then come back to us and tell us that we're liable for specific. I mean, if you have proof, then come to us and present that. But otherwise, I don't like the way this you presented this today. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah. I have a question for you. How often do you maintain your swales?
It's ongoing.
You gotta
I
get to the
apologize.
microphone. That's okay.
It's ongoing. I mean, dirt
Do you
roads.
have a record of when they were maintained?
Yes, we grade roads weekly, so there's someone on the road at least once a week minimum.
So why weren't these reported sooner?
We're under new management of a new executive director. So
That doesn't answer my question.
when our new director came, this was one thing that he saw as an issue that was important to him, and this is something that he decided to pursue and bring to the board. So
No, that's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
In the past, like Mr. Pelowitz has said here, we did work hand in hand with them, and that just slowly tapered off. I don't know the reason why. I'm relatively new here, 4 years, so before that, I'm not sure how that was handled.
Well, this seems it seems to me, and just that without any kind of proof of what caused what, and a timely reporting, and I think if nothing else after today, hopefully you all can have timely reporting when things happen, so that they can be addressed and they can be looked at, and you can
Absolutely.
So I think moving forward, maybe you can go back to your executive director and let him know that our expectation would be that they, or that your organization has timely communication with the SWA so that it can be addressed. Because I think it's going to be very difficult to be able to show, if these things have been going on for many years, that who, how, and what caused it as well. So that would be my recommendation going, and however it goes out going forward, we'll see. But
Commissioner Powell, and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. My question would be back to what Commissioner Sachs said in terms of getting together. I know Mr. Pelowitz said that you all could get together. I just want to figure out if there's a time frame so that could happen. And is it before our next meeting? I don't want to kick the can down the road, so to speak.
It can certainly be between our next meetings. So,
and I'm hopeful that y'all can really establish a date and kind of get back to the board on that so that we understand what's happening. And I do understand my colleagues' concern with other entities bringing issues before us. But if you don't know how the roads have been damaged, or if there's no willingness to really discuss it, it becomes problematic. So I would like to see you all have these discussions and figure out how to resolve issues. And if Mr. Jones would be there as our attorney, and Seth Bain as the attorney for the concerned party, that would be helpful for us, because we don't have the liberty or the privilege to sit here and say, well, we're not going to talk to them and they're not going to talk to us, and this is happening, that's happened. We don't. Somebody's got to resolve some issues, and we're here as a board to hopefully get the job done. So I'm hopeful that you can establish a time frame, and in between this meeting and the next meeting, tell us what date, Mr. Pelowitz, perhaps, so that we can know that this is moving forward and some issues have been resolved. Unfortunately, and Mr. Bain, I'll also say this, sometimes people come to the board as a last resort. Maybe if it's the pleasure of the board that you contact our offices to tell us this, if that's what people would like, then we do that. But I don't fault anyone for thinking that this is the time at a public hearing to maybe bring up an issue. So I don't want to beat you down in public for doing that, but we've got to get things done. We've got to resolve issues, and we don't have the liberty to say, well, you should have told us sooner, or we're just going to ignore it. That's not how we should be doing business. That's just my opinion, but I believe it's a valid opinion. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and that's really all we're here for today, is the opportunity to keep an open dialogue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to echo some of what I've heard from the members. It's a bit alarming because and again, I'm not familiar with this area, it's District 1, but I would have a hard time saying or believing that our haulers would be singularly responsible for all of these dots on the road. I mean, are there not UPS or Amazon trucks, box trucks, trucks with trailers? I mean, some of this could very much be wear and tear, and to have some of this looks like entire road networks, and to say that our haulers caused it, it's a little hard for me to swallow that would be the only truck on those roads and all this time that could cause the damage that you're describing. If our haulers do cause damage, I think it should be reported and we can deal with that accordingly. But this looks like all the roads almost in this entire area. And so unless our trucks are the only ones on those roads, if you're going back a couple of years and looking at this, I can't take that as our haulers are doing it. If there's agreement on certain areas where it's like, okay, that looks like definitely one of our haulers did it, and moving forward, alert us immediately and we can have, the repairs made. But to come with this is a lot. And unless they're the only trucks on the road, I don't see how we could say that this is on our haulers.
Right. There's no question. When we were alerted to this project, and as you said, and Mr. Kennedy directed the engineer to go survey the district. Let's see how extensive the damage is. And this is what the engineers came back with. And every one of these sites was photographed. Every one of them at least had sod missing that had been scraped off, or a deeper depression or significant depression.
And I'm not negating excuse me, sir, but to say that our haulers are the ones that called it, I mean, without a little more definitive proof of that, or like it happened on this day, the trucks went through, here's all the damage. I mean, that's the type of, because this is going to be all the payers or all the taxpayers of the county will be paying to foot this bill. So it needs to be something that our hauler caused. And it can't just be wear and tear on the road, and it can't be damage that you found without saying that we caused it.
Understood.
Thank you.
And we're going to notify and have been working to notify our constituents. If you see something, say something, right? Because of that, we realize the importance of that contemporaneous reporting is important. We absolutely get that, and absolutely, as part of this request, is to work with Mr. Pelowitz to make sure that going forward that there's a process in place and that they're timely responding, which I certainly believe they would, and it wouldn't be an issue. It's just as you said, the extent of the damage was shocking to us, and yeah, there's no question that you can't subscribe 100% of this damage to the SWA. But it's our belief that it's like a majority of the location where it occurred, where it's at in the swale, is consistent with your operations. So,
Mr. Bain, I'm the last to go.
Yep.
So I am going to reiterate some things and give some of my own personal experience living on a dirt road with swales. So I will say that there's a lot of damage that comes to swales living in any area like this. And there's no way, I believe, we could attribute that all to just the haulers. In no world is that even possible. There are so many, to Commissioner Woodward's point, other factors that go into that. The number one damage to our roads, believe it or not, is usually rain. It washes away the dirt. It goes into swales. It causes a lot of its own issues. And then any little thing on a wet surface, the best haulers in the world, let's say it was a hauler, going with that thought, there's going to be some limit of damage, but that's why you live in an improvement district for maintenance and so on, because you have to have garbage removal. It'd be impossible not to. So I will say, I do find it, I reiterate, I find it concerning that there are this is a lot. And I don't even dispute the fact that there might be damage there. I think the fact that it all came from our haulers, that's a little far-fetched. I don't like, to Commissioner Flores' point, coming and threatening litigation. I think there was a better way to approach this. I also believe that I wouldn't mind, since litigation hasn't been filed. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Not at all.
I do not mind if staff wants to have a conversation and see what it is you're asking. Because I do, to Commissioner Sachs's point, litigation can get costly, and nobody wants to go there. So I will support that, but I don't want this to get out of control, and I don't believe there's any way we can say our haulers caused all this damage. You want to say something, Mr. Pelowitz?
No, I'm happy to meet with them at any time. If they have specific information that lends it to believe that it's the responsibility of the hauler, I'm happy to listen to it. We're happy to work with them to come up with a process in the future to ensure that this stuff is handled on a timely basis and managed properly. It will be as responsive as we possibly can be, and that's what I commit to.
Thank you. And I'd ask that the district from now on needs to report these on an individual basis. To your point of the residents need to report them as they occur, not bring a whole sheet worth to us. I will end with that. So thank you for your
Thank
comments.
you so much. I appreciate your consideration.
Oh, excuse me. I have lights. Commissioner Powell is next, actually. He's flashing. And then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things I was going to suggest is that looking at all these dots, Mr. Bain, and it doesn't require a verbal response, but perhaps you could tell us how many incidents you have documented here, because to me it's just a bunch of dots, and also pictures of these particular locations. I heard some reference to dead grass instead of swell damage. So this map that's been geo-mapped for us just has a bunch of dots, which as a planner, sometimes I just don't like dots because they don't show us to the extent, or they don't show us exactly where. All this does is show us a bunch of dots. It doesn't show us the number of incidents. It doesn't show us any addresses, any particular locations. There's no pictures. So one of the challenges that we have sitting here on the board is we look at this as a bunch of dots that almost covers the entirety of the map, which would almost suggest that this is everywhere. As one of my colleagues said, it's nearly every road. So for us, maybe there's a better way to identify this and show us the number of incidents, show us what those incidents particularly look like, especially if you're saying that it was damage caused by the authority. And to the extent, and what the costs, I heard you say some costs earlier, but to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, this map with the red dots, as it's been geo-mapped, looks like it covers everything, and it really doesn't tell me a whole lot.
Agreed. And we have a lot of that data, and we can share that with your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
Mr. Pelowitz, how often do we pick up here?
So we have twice a week garbage collection out there, once a week vegetation, and once a week recycling. So that's a minimum of 4 trucks a week. But if there's a large pile and a clamshell's got to go down there, then that would be a 5th truck that could go down to somebody's house. So yeah, I mean we're out there at least 4 times at every house during a week.
Okay. I'm referring to you now. Do you allow other delivery trucks to come into that neighborhood?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Are you also pursuing damages with those companies?
We are not. And as Baxter noted, anybody driving on a swale will damage it. And it's true. They're often soft and wet, and we agree with it.
So are you going after anybody else, or is it just us?
We are not.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any more comments from the board? Mayor Marino.
Sorry, and I'll try to wrap it up. Seth did reach out to my office a little while ago and I passed the information. I don't want you to think that they haven't contacted us, but the contact was recent. They contacted my office, and I sent that information on to Mr. Pelowitz, and Mr. Pelowitz gave me history of what has happened with all of the other districts too, not just Sir Wicket, and how there has been maintenance along the way, but there has been a gap of years where no maintenance and no discussion has occurred. So why that is the issue, I do not know. But suffice it to say, we're here now. So there you go. But I didn't want you to think that, this was their first attempt at talking to us. They had reached out to my office. I did send the information to Mr. Pelowitz and had gotten what I had felt was a satisfactory response. And, there's an awful lot that happens within our districts that we don't feel, we need to share with everybody because we feel that the situation has taken care of itself. But I just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're going to open the public hearing for fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. If anyone would like to submit a comment card that has not on this, I ask that you do now. And if staff would please start the presentation, that'd be great.
Yes, Mr. Dunkley, our CFO, is going to provide a presentation of the budget.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. Madam Chair, Mayor Marino, members of the board, we thank you for the opportunity to present to you the fiscal year 2026 budget. Before we tell you what it is that we're proposing for for the upcoming fiscal year, we would like to, with your permission, do a brief recap of the fiscal 2025 budget, which is the year that we're in now. So basically, the fiscal 25 year budget highlights is as follows. Since special assessments comprise approximately 65% of our total budget, it is only fitting that we kind of give you a 10,000-foot view of the rates. So what you did last year for this fiscal year, fiscal 25, was that you approved a single-family rate of 194. You approve a multifamily rate of 107, and then you approve a mobile home rates for mobile homes of 184 per year. You also authorize staff to pay down or prepay the Series 2021 revenue bonds. What that did effectively was that allowed us to increase our debt service coverage ratio to that of 2.02 or 202%. The credit rating agencies and the indenture of trust that we have with our bonds require that we maintain a level of 1.1%. 110% rather, which is 1.1, a ratio of 1.1. You also approve a capital budget of $44.7 million, and then you authorize us to adjust the rates for the collection assessments by roughly 5%. So for fiscal 26, what staff is proposing is that we're proposing a 7.6% average increase for the residential rates. The primary rate for single family, we will see an increase there, which will bring it up to $277 per year. Multifamily will increase to $116 a year. Mobile homes will increase likewise to $198 a year. The commercial assessments, those rates will be increased slightly. And with respect to the commercial assessment, they're categorized into what we deem as low, medium, and high generator. The low generator are those entities which generate approximately 2 or fewer pounds per square foot. Those are kind of they generate less weight. The bulk of the assessment is concentrated in what we term the medium generator. Those are greater than 2 pounds per square foot and less than 8 pounds per square foot. Collectively, we see an increase there of 2.3 cents per square foot. So the proposed mandatory collection assessment rates are.
Excuse me, Mr. Dunkley. Commissioner Flores has a question.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you halfway through. Regarding the multifamily, that rate is significantly lower than the rest. Is that because they share one of the bigger bins? Is that usually how that works?
Precisely. What we're looking at is that the waste generation for a multifamily unit is somewhat less than what we deem a single-family unit,
So
residential.
you're saying that.
So for instance, we expect a single-family residential unit to generate 1.1 ton of waste, of
But a
garbage and trash.
multifamily is different?
It's roughly about I think it's 0.85
Is that scientific?
tons. We conducted a waste generation study
Really?
to come up with these ratios and what we deem as what the waste that's
So they
generated.
consume, their consumption is less than a single-family home?
It is.
Yes, I can.
It is.
So the Solid Waste Authority's rates are based upon a generation study where we actually went out and conducted a study on routes throughout the county, single family, multifamily 5 units and greater, multifamily 4 units and less, and mobile homes. And so the rate that are presented are based upon the relative generation rates of those units.
So a mobile home consumes or has more waste than multifamily?
Yes, in fact, a mobile home has about the same solid waste generation based on the study as a single-family home. They have less vegetation generation, but they have about the same solid waste generation.
That's good. When was that study done?
It was done in the 90s, the mid-90s.
And how often is that study done?
It hasn't been updated since the mid-90s.
I would.
We've talked about it, but it's a big endeavor to
Yeah.
do it. And
I know everything costs money to do a study, but to me that's interesting that a multifamily generates that much less than a mobile home and a single family.
Dan, if I may, one thing also with multifamily, they're not assessed for vegetation. So that rate is not included in that. So that's another reason why it's lower than single-family homes who are assessed for vegetation.
And what would you say is the vegetation component of that?
It depends on the district. You know, the haulers bid it differently, but residential units don't pay for vegetation. Mostly it's a common area, which they're not assessed for. So they pay the HOA fees is what takes care of that for the most part. So they're not assessed for vegetation, just strictly on garbage.
Good to know. Thank you.
My quick question, could we get a price on, 95 was a long time ago, on what a study would cost
we can.
to update that?
We can. Indian River did one, I think, 2 years ago, Indian River County, 2 or 3 years ago. So we can get a price. Just understand what it requires. It requires setting up routes throughout the county. They have to be only one type of unit on each route. And you have to track the waste tonnage collected on each of those routes.
Well, maybe if
every
they
time
did them
go
in the
out.
other counties, we could get that data
Well, we can't use their data. We have to use our own.
for single family versus multifamily
Right.
versus.
So we operate under what's called the uniform method of collection. It's a non-ad valorem special assessment. So the service, the cost of the service or the rates we charge have to be consistent with the value of the service to the specific property. And so to do that, we would have to do a study specific to the Solid Waste Authority, specific to the unincorporated, to the entire county, not just unincorporated, and it would have to be scientifically based.
Wow.
It's important to understand that the pie is going to be the same. The study determines how the pie is broken up. So there's no scenario in which everybody pays less or everybody pays more. It's just it would be a reallocation based upon current generation rates of. So for right now, for example, a A single-family home, it generates about 1.1 tons of garbage and 0.85 tons of vegetation. A mobile home generates about 0.58 tons of vegetation, just as an example. So those are the types of numbers you'd have to get again. And the technology is better now. I mean, you have the ability with onboard scales to weigh things better than we could back then. So if the board wants us to go to do another generation study, we can certainly do it.
I'm just going to end with saying I'd like to know what that would cost.
Okay.
And Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my questions were along the same lines as the Vice Chair, the Chair. And I think about the mid-'90s, what I was doing, and I was just finishing middle school. And I've been done with grad school for 20 years. Got a whole daughter and a wife and all this. This is what has happened in 30 years. So it's a little bit concerning that we said we're looking at a study from 30 years when technology has changed. 30 years ago, we didn't even have, they existed, but we didn't have cell phones. Could you imagine? There was no Facebook, no Instagram, all that. So these 30 years, it's a huge difference. But Vice Mayor, Commissioner Baxter also indicated that perhaps we could look at another study. Now, we're not saying we can take their numbers, but Commissioner Flores indicated that single-family and multifamily were different costs and were generating more. Maybe we should just look to see if it was similar in St. Lucie County, that multifamily is still generating less trash than single family. In addition to that, think about the population growth in Palm Beach County over the last 30 years. As a planner, we look at comprehensive plans and we comp plan out 30 years. 30 years is a long time. In another 30 years, I'll be retired, hopefully. And I will be. But it's a lot. It was a lot to digest. You said we did it in the mid-'90s. I was like, wow. So perhaps that's something that we should look at.
So the direction right now is to look at what the cost is
Of doing the study.
of doing a study.
And if you could just bring back to us your expertise in this, right? Do you find a value? It's been 30 years.
Yeah, it has been, and certainly things could have changed. And normally, I think ideally you would do it more frequently. It's just the complexity of it is really the issue. I actually, in my previous roles here, conducted and oversaw the study back at that time. So I know how they're done. I was the one as part of staff kind of directing it. So I can certainly go out to a consultant and get an estimate of what it would cost to do it now. And also I'll forward to you, we'll get a copy of Indian River County's study and I'll forward it to you.
Thank you. Any more? Oh, we have lights. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I think we should every so often look at some of these studies, and they should be renewed. I think it's part of what we should probably do, especially since that's how we formulate the costs per unit. To Commissioner Powell's comments, the internet has transformed the world. Now we get everything delivered to our homes on an ongoing basis. So I think spending habits have changed in 30 years. Also, multifamily homes nowadays cost $500,000. So that people, it's not what it used to be. It's my point. People have spending habits, and I don't think it changes between multifamily and single family all that much. So I would be very interested in getting that study redone. But I think that's a good barometer to use. Was it St. Lucie County? To see
Indian River.
Indian River, I'm sorry.
Yep.
It would be good to see if theirs have had change. And then if it didn't really change, then I don't know, we can consider maybe not doing the study. But if there is maybe something there, maybe we should go ahead and move forward. So I think it might behoove us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks.
To think that Commissioner Powell was in elementary school when this was started is amazing. I would, Mr. Pelowitz, since you did it before, if you could use whatever technology we have available today in terms of surveying how much it costs. Things have changed, population has shifted. We probably have more HOAs today than we did in the 90s, especially in Palm Beach County. And also, and if you can do this as efficiently as possible, to look at Broward County, because I think they're probably the closest to us in terms of population and type of housing. So if we could do this as using technology as much as possible to do this so that we keep the costs down and a more scientific basis on it, that I think it's certainly worth, as my colleagues have said, it's worth another look to update it and hopefully it won't go up. It won't go up. Because I would like to, though, to do it as efficiently as possible for the benefit of our constituents. Thank you, sir.
I have no more lights.
Okay, Hugh, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pell. So, in terms of the total revenue, so the total revenue for the authority as a whole is expected to increase by about $27.9 million. That's disposal as well as collection. Disposal will comprise $27.1 million of that increase. And so, as I indicated earlier, since the disposal assessment, which we have a total budget of around $408 million, the assessments comprise about $265 million of that. So there we see the bulk of the increase, which is $16.3 million, followed by interest income. We expect interest income to increase slightly. I wanted to make one mention of the fact that included in the budget for the upcoming year is $2.6 million of capital contribution from the authority's biosolid processing facility partners for their 88% share of the $3 million electrical distribution project. We are proposing one particular change to the tipping fee, and that is to the direct landfill special waste rate, which we recommend an increase of $15 from $65 to $80 per ton. On the expense side of the ledger, we will see an increase of $11.3 million, the bulk of which is plant operations costs. We see some increase there in personnel and related expenditures. We're proposing a 3.8% increase there in COLA, and we do foresee an increase in property insurance coverage. We expect the blighted grant program to remain level at $750,000. And in terms of staffing, we're requesting 2 additional full-time equivalent. Those will be for operations for 2 new tractor-trailer drivers. The debt service, kind of regurgitating some of what I had said earlier, last year you authorized staff to prepay the debt. This year, we're recommending that we don't prepay the debt and we hold on to some of those reserves in contemplation of construction of the REF 3 facility. As a result, we will see an increase in the debt service expense of roughly $18.1 million, and that will have the reverse effect. It will decrease our debt service coverage ratio and will make it about 1.69, a ratio of 1.69. However, that is still considered fairly healthy by the credit rating agencies. The capital budget, we will see a slight decrease there, and the mandatory collection expenses, which are for collection in our unincorporated areas, will have a slight increase. And so moving forward, if you look at the two charts before you, they depict the consumer price index. And the main point we want to reflect there is that the CPI index, the red or orange line, it reflects the price level changes over the year. The green is what our rates would have been if we applied those price level changes to our rates, and the bottom blue line is effectively what it is that we're proposing. And so this fiscal year, fiscal 25, we're at a rate of $194 per year per single-family residential. The 211 represents what we had surmised back in October of 24 during our workshop, what we would be charging our residents to be in a good shape to cash fund some of the project expenditures for F3. However, after kind of looking at the rates and sharpening our pencils, we were able to bring the rate down to 207 effectively, which is what we're proposing today. And speaking of the General Reserve, we expect at the end of this year that the General Reserve balance will be about $210.9 million, and we're proposing that we not prepay any of our debt service for the year. So on the collection side, the indices that we use to figure out what we charge our residents and in turn what we pay the waste haulers are based on two factors primarily. The first of which is the fuel index, and the fuel index comprise about 10% of the weight of the increase. And so we have experienced a favorable slight decrease in the fuel index since January. It's been around 10%. Nationwide, the energy prices have seen the CPI has been a negative 3.5% increase year over year through May. But the effect that this will have, it will have a positive effect to the ratepayers. It will help them out in essence. On the other hand, the water, sewer, and trash index, which we refer to as our refuse rate index, which comprises 90% of the weighting for the increase, we will see an increase of 4.98%. And so coupled together, that brings us to our collection rate, which we have a low of 208 in service area 3 to roughly 377 in service area 2. But the main thing that I want to point out with this chart is that we see a slight increase in all of the service areas with the exception of service area 5. And so that is so because we're expecting to achieve some economies of scales with service area 5 because of which will be discussed a bit later. Staff is recommending a merger or incorporating service area 5 into service area 2 for the fact that the contract has ended, the piggyback contract with South Bay has ended, and we feel that we can create some economies of scale by merging those two service areas. So all in all, the proposed budget, we have increases in most of our assessments, which will bear the overall operating and capital and debt service costs ratably. We have slight increases in our collection assessments, and the one increase in the tipping fee rate that we're proposing is the special waste direct landfill, which we propose will increase from $65 to $80 per ton. And so what we're seeking essentially is three things. We're seeking, firstly, board approval for the fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. We're seeking your authorization for the fiscal year 2026 proposed assessment and tip fee rates, which will go on the trim notice, which is going to be going out roughly in the middle to the end of August.
Excuse me, Mr. Dunkley. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Dunkley, you talked about creating an economy of scale by merging the two service areas as the South Bay contract ends. Can you explain to me exactly what that looks like?
Mr. Gonsalves probably can answer that better.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually prepared a presentation when it comes my time, and I have all of those figures. I have visuals for you just to better explain why we're requesting it and what the impact will be for those residents.
If you'd like, we can kind of jump to that, have him present that here. So as part of the budget, because what we're going to be, this budget assumes that the board is going to approve the merger of Service Area 2 into 5, and so that the rates that are published for the trim notice are accurate.
I would like to see that prior to approving this budget.
So would you? So I think it'd probably be a good time right now to have Paul kind of go into that portion of the presentation he was going to do for 91, so you can see it here.
And Madam Chair, in terms of process, I'm new here. Why would we approve this budget prior to looking at that? Why wouldn't that come first? That presentation, like who?
I believe because this is my district and we've had those conversations.
Okay.
It's probably why they feel comfortable doing that. But if you would like the presentation first, I have
love
no
that presentation.
issue.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
So on the different item?
No, we can discuss it here, and then we'll go back to that. So basically, the part of the discussion for 91 that we were going to have on this issue, we can have it here.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Mayor Marino, and board members. So,
Paul, I just want to make clear you're only going to cover the part on the merger of 2 with 5.
okay,
Save the rest till the end.
gotcha. So, let me go to that.
Page 8.
So currently, the authority uses a cooperative purchase agreement with the city of South Bay, contract with Waste Management for solid waste and recycling collection for Service Area 5. The city's current contract with the hauler expires September 30th of this year. The city issued a request for proposal to provide these services for the next 7 years. The city received responses from 4 different proposers. The authority staff understands that there may be some potential delays in awarding this contract. As a result, the delays and the uncertainty, staff does not believe a similar cooperative purchase agreement for fiscal year 26 is viable. Therefore, staff is seeking board approval to incorporate Service Area 5 into Service Area 2 for the fiscal year 2026 upcoming franchise collection contract. Therefore, recently, Service Area 5 has been serviced, like I said, through a cooperative purchase agreement, and due to the geographical proximity of and logistical alignment with that area. However, the delays in the city solicitation does not align with the authority's schedule for budgeting and trim notice. So we have to have the unit count, we have to have the pricing and everything in order for the trim, going into the trim, knowing what the pricing will be. They're set to award, I believe, July 22nd, which will follow a protest period, and we can't foretell if there's going to be a protest. But because of the timeline differences, we can't really rely on that. We're requesting to incorporate 5 into 2. Now, as you can see, the Service Area 2 rates compared to the Service Area 5 South Bay rates, they're a lot lower than what they're currently paying now. This slide just displays the dispersed curbside collection units in Service Area 5. The units being so dispersed is the reason why it's a difficult area to service and why we would recommend to not bid this as a standalone service area, to incorporate it into 5. So this is basically, or into 2, this is basically how dispersed those different curbside units are. It's a very difficult area for servicing because of how spaced out they are, and there's not that many units.
Excuse me, Mr. Gonzalez. Commissioner Powell, your light is still on. Is it from the last one? Okay. I have, so to summarize, we're subsidizing South Bay using the other service area by incorporating it into this one.
Yeah, so incorporating it into Service Area 2, it makes the most sense geographically because of how close they are. We would not recommend bidding this out as its own standalone area because, as
the
you
rates
know,
would be much higher.
It's one of our most financially impacted area, and because of the amount of units and how far apart they are, the rates would be extraordinarily higher.
Thank you. Were you finished with you please proceed.
Okay. So this slide just presents a visual map of what the service area layout, the proposed service area layout would look like in the upcoming 2027 contract, including also, as we previously discussed, we're going to incorporate the current Service Area 6 into Service Area 2 as well. So this new Service Area 2 would encompass Service Area 5, the current Service Area 2, and the current Service Area 6 to make up the new Service Area 2.
I think that's the end of that portion, isn't it? Or do you have?
Yes.
Okay, so just some background. Service area, the Glades area contract was issued a year before the rest of the service areas, and that's why it's expiring a year earlier. That was done because the board had directed us to use the piggyback on South Bay, and then we delayed the issuance of the bid for the other collection areas due to the disparity study and the need to get that information before we put that on the street. So we have a 1-year period here where Service Area 5, the Glades area, is hanging out there by itself. And so what this will allow us to do is merge it into 2 for this year and then bid it as part of 2 for next year, for the next 7-year contract. And as you've seen in the rates, this actually results in a rate reduction for the residents in Service Area 5 coming into the next year. The most significant reduction is in the multifamily, is in the containerized service. And so there is a cost advantage to the residents. The lowest bid rate that South Bay received is higher than the rate they will receive from the authority in this upcoming year. And as Paul said, we cannot rely on South Bay being able to get through its process in time to initiate that service. This will require working with Waste Management, who's the current hauler for both 5 and 2, to negotiate the moving these into this service area between now and the next couple of months. I see Mr. Sabins in the audience. We have had initial discussions, and they have indicated that they're willing to work with us on doing that. So with that, I can take any questions on this, but that's what led us to the point where we've put this budget package together with assuming that 5 rolls into 2.
Commissioner Powell, did you have a follow-up?
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. So 5 would roll into 2 and 6 would roll into 2, and then we would wait until next year and bid it all out.
So for this upcoming year, 6 stays where it is, but in the next bid, 6 is going to be rolled into 2. So instead of having 2 broken into 2 pieces like it is right now, it'll be a contiguous Service Area 2 that would also include the Glades. And then that Service Area 6 is actually being moved to the north end of Boynton Beach, where you see that little piece there in this chart here. And that will be now called Service Area 5 because we've we don't have a 5 anymore. So we're actually going to be 1 service area short.
So you explained that service area, the original service area 5, right? That
The one right now, yes.
right now was bid by itself for 1 year. It was 1 year behind because was it because of a disparity study, or what was the reason it was 1 year behind?
So that service area 5 is actually a piggyback on the South Bay contract that was issued back then in 2018. And so it's a 7-year contract.
Okay.
The contract we issued in 2019, that started in 2019 for the rest of the service areas, is also a 7-year contract. So that's why our contract in the Glades, for the Glades, unincorporated area of the Glades, expired a year earlier than the contract for the balance of the county. So this will give us the opportunity to bring them back onto the same calendar. For backup, we're limited to a 7-year contract. Pursuant to our special act, we cannot issue a franchise agreement for more than 7 years. And so that's where we are here.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores?
So first of all, thank you, staff, for doing this. I think this is actually probably for the best in the long run. Who is currently the provider for Area 2?
Waste management.
Waste management. Okay. And then it's going to be Waste Pro.
No, it'll still be waste management.
Waste management. Okay. And I don't know Mr. Savins here, so I guess my comments are simply going to be that I would like this to be a smooth transition, considering it's part of my district that's going to be, that's now Area 2. So if it's the same company, I hope that it's smooth and we have no issues.
It's going to be smooth for your area because nothing changes in 2 East. It'll be business as usual. Nothing technically changes. The current service provider will just continue servicing, just under a new contract.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
One more.
Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Powell.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Mr. Pelowitz, you and I had a discussion yesterday. I know waste management, from my understanding, waste management is currently the provider for 2 and 5?
That's correct.
So the conversation we had yesterday, where does Good Companies fit in there?
The Good Companies doesn't. The Good Companies right now is the low bidder on the South Bay contract. So that's what the comparison that Paul put up relates to. It's just showing what their low bid price is.
Okay. So as the low bidder on the South Bay contract, they would now be bidding on, that bid would be eliminated completely.
Well, that's the South Bay contract, so they're in line to get it. They are our current service provider in Service Area 6. The Good Company is. They also provide service in Riviera Beach.
So they would still be in line once all the service areas are merged together.
Yes, they're certainly
Okay.
able to bid on the upcoming contracts, and they've indicated they're going to, so I expect they will.
Commissioner Powell, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is there a delineation between the city of South Bay's contract and our contract?
Yes, so
I think that's what
our
we're getting at.
contract is for the service area around South Bay. It's the unincorporated area that surrounds Pahokee, South Bay, and Belglade. And so these are all of the units that aren't in the incorporated area. It just seemed back in 2013 it was advantageous to piggyback the South Bay contract because our rates previously in that area were significantly higher than the rates that South Bay got when they put their proposal on the street. So that's the background.
Thank you. And Commissioner Woodward, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, I was going to make the motion that we approve the budget for 2026 and continue the public hearing until August 2025? Is that what's required?
I have a first by Commissioner Woodward, a second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you need some further instruction?
I just want to, can we just to be, I guess to be 100% accurate, can we just include approve the assessment and tip fee rates for the trim notice?
May I have a motion?
Amended to that, yes.
Yes, thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the amended motion carries 7-0. On this item that we just, on the next item. First, we're going to, is there any old business?
There is no old business.
Thank you. And so for item 9A1, we've done part of the presentation.
No, 9A1 is the add-on, 9D1 will be the collection discussion. So we're in 9A1 right now, which is,
I gotcha. We do have one card on this item. We're going to take public comment first, if that's,
you have a card on 9A1?
or 9D1.
9D1.
91.
Forgive us.
I'm sorry.
We'll
you're
get
good.
it together, I promise.
No, you're,
So we will continue with 9A1.
all right, so 9A1 is, it's similar to the discussion you had downtown last week. The President of the United States issued several executive orders that affect two things, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, as well as the recognition of gender identity that exists in various policies that the authority has. As background, the Solid Waste Authority relies on FEMA grants to cover the cost of debris removal following a hurricane or natural disaster. That can be, in the past, has been 30 million, 50 million, and it could be more. In short, these executive orders and the lack of certainty as to how the government will interpret the programs the authority has relative to their interpretation of federal anti-discrimination laws puts us in a position, in an untenable position of potentially not being able to receive those FEMA grants, or potentially exposing authority staff and or board members to liability in the event we sign the required certificates that certifying that the authority does not have any diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. So what we're asking the board to do is to direct staff to immediately suspend all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the authority, to direct the executive director to immediately suspend all race and gender conscious affirmative procurement initiatives in the authority's economic inclusion policy and procedures and in the purchasing manual, to return to a small business program, to return and to cease enforcement or utilization of preferences based on sex or race in procurement until otherwise directed by the board. We're asking the board to also authorize the executive director to remove all references to gender identity in the employee handbook, in the commercial non-discrimination policy, and wherever they appear, and to direct staff to return to the board with the amended purchasing manual for board approval in August. What we're also asking, and it's not written in the recommendation, but we probably should have put it there, is that we immediately put a statement in our purchasing manual that says, any and all references to small minority women business enterprises, SMWBE or MWBE or other similar references shall mean exclusively without exception or limitation small business enterprise referred to as SBE. All race and gender conscious APIs within this manual are hereby rescinded. We are recommending that these changes remain in place until further direction by the board. That could obviously be affected by any definitive court findings or court rulings related to these executive orders and this topic. That's the purpose of putting that statement in the manual now, is in the event that we get hit with a hurricane or natural disaster between now and August, I need something in the manual. I will tell you that we're a sub-grantee to the state. The state's the grantee, and the state is very particular about and often asks for copies of our policies and handbooks, and I would not want them to receive a purchasing manual that has the language still in it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Pelowitz. We had a similar discussion for the county purposes last week, and I would like to go ahead and move this recommendation as you read and with the additional statement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have some lights. We have Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Pelowitz, within your conversation, the additional statement, you'd like to add that any SWBE program be referenced to basically say that if you left it off anywhere, it would be referenced as SBE. Also, in addition to that, you said in the handbook, you've already made reference that you will sweep any language that says SMWBE, I believe, so that's eliminated anyways. But you don't currently have any policies that you were indicating that would specifically speak to any DEI programs. Is that right or wrong?
so we don't specifically have any DEI policies outside of what the executive order defines as a DEI policy, being the preference in our procurement. So we don't, to my knowledge, we don't. Other than that, the purpose of putting the statement in there is just to demonstrate to anyone who reads this that the authority is making every effort to comply with the executive orders. I think that's really the intent.
Thank you for that. I don't think we added that particular statement at the county last week, but and I just want to reference that the whole issue we had is this idea of having illegal race and sex-based diversity and equity inclusion programs, and the definition of still illegal was never defined. So this whole process still presents a big challenge for me with regard to that, and within the abundance of caution, I know everybody's jumping to eliminate anything that says diversity, equity, inclusion, but I would like to see, and switching back to small businesses, but I want to make sure that these small businesses, whether they are women-owned or minority-owned, have a level of protection that sometimes is not provided. These issues, of course, will remain problematic, will remain a challenge. And last year we had a robust and comprehensive discussion. Well, it wasn't comprehensive. We could have went a little deeper, but we had a robust discussion. And, those are the things that I'm challenged with when I see this. And it's not just a challenge now. It's been a challenge since this has started happening. So I heard the motion in a second, and, I think I've said what I need to say. Unless people want me to opine any further, I'll rest my comments.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. As was said earlier, I mean, we went over this last week. I just want to be clear. I do not support this policy. I think it's a clear attack on local control. I think, again, this has been something for years we have been trying to correct. And I think the federal government's overreach is here. I also understand that I have a role and a duty to make sure that in the case of emergency, in this case, that we have the funding needed from the federal government, and that could be at risk due to non-compliance. But I look forward to the legal challenges making their way through the courts. I believe that they will be upheld and that the administration will be deemed to be in the wrong on this, and that we have the right. We have shown through disparity studies the need to make these corrective actions, and so I totally disagree with this. But unfortunately, I will have to support it in order to allow for us to be able to claim our federal funds that we have sent to the federal government to get our own money back. So,
Commissioner Flores.
Mr. Pelowitz, at the Board of County Commissioners, it needed to be a 4 out of 5 vote to pass. Is that the same here today?
At the authority, it needs to be a majority. You were amending an emergency ordinance. I think it was, you had to have 6 of 7. Over here, it's just a majority.
Yeah, but it read 4 out of basically 80% had approved. So here's just a majority. I oppose this suspension. I have already made some comments regarding this. I'm not going to go over those comments again. It's sad we have to do this. However, at the Board of County Commissioners, we did a 2-year suspension. Are you saying that this is an open-ended suspension until it comes back to the board, or are we doing a 2-year suspension with the ability for the board to bring it back up at a later time again?
It's whatever the board's pleasure is. So
I would prefer that it be a 2-year suspension, that we revisit this in 2 years after the legal process has gone through, and it comes back up automatically in 2 years, and we can vote to suspend the program again if we have to, or we can reinstate based on what happens to the legal proceeding. So that would be my substitute motion.
Second that. Honor before.
I do not have any more lights, so I'm going to go. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, just to clarify, your motion was honor before 2 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Could I?
Commissioner Sacks.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chairperson. So what we're doing is we're conforming to the federal order that can be modified once a court reviews it. Then we can revisit it, right, Mr. Pelowitz? So that we would conform then to a court order's revision of the federal order.
absolutely, yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
We're going to do a roll call vote. We have a substitute motion. The difference in the two motions currently, and there's only room for one more if there was a substitute motion, would be to not have a timeline or a different timeline. I'm going to speak prior to taking that vote, though. I'm not going to repeat. I think I made my opinion on these policies very clear. I don't need to go over that again. I will say until we have a Supreme Court ruling on this, and we don't know, I mean, if that's going to be a year, 2, or 10, because the Supreme Court takes their time. So I don't necessarily agree with adding a timeline, because we at any moment as a commissioner can bring this back, to your point, Mr. Pelowitz. But we do have a substitute motion on the floor that we will vote on. So if you could please, Commissioner Weiss, I'm going to start with you for voting.
No.
To the substitute motion? Okay.
Confused as to which one's the substitute
Yeah, you
motion?
seconded the substitute motion.
I did.
And now you're voting no. Okay. Mayor Marino.
Wait, I'm confused.
I think he doesn't like the timeline. Do you want to allow, well, it's up to you.
Timeline or?
I was not aware you didn't need the 6 out of the 7 votes. You need a simple majority. So if this can be accomplished without my vote, then I'm happy to have that accomplished without my vote.
I'll vote yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Point of order.
Commissioner Powell, would you like to speak prior to finishing our vote?
Yes, point of order. The question I have is, are we voting, if this vote fails, does the entirety of the
Then we go back to the
first
original
amendment.
motion.
The original motion. Okay.
Could you restate, could the motion be restated so we know specifically what we are voting for
So-
right now?
Mr. Pelowitz, I'll have you say it.
I think you're voting to suspend in accordance with the staff's recommendation, adding the additional clause. The substitute motion includes that this comes back to the board 2 years, within 2 years or sooner, if there's an action by the courts.
Thank you. And if I may, the person who made the original motion, can we just have, I think that regardless of how we vote today on the original motion, if the Supreme Court says you do not have to do this, then I would imagine that the Solid Waste Authority would bring that back to us, and that's what we're voting on the substitute motion. So can we just make one motion so that we follow the law of the land and bring that before the Solid Waste Authority so that we could vote on it? That would make it simpler.
May I? So basically, the motions are exactly the same. Right now, the substitute motion is saying it has to come back regardless of a Supreme Court ruling or not within 2 years.
Okay, now
If
I'm
that
fine.
motion fails and we do not give it a majority, it will default to the first motion, which we will then vote on. It doesn't have a timeline. And-
that fails,
And if that fails, we're starting all over. Or it doesn't pass, actually.
it doesn't pass.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward voted.
Yes.
Commissioner Flores.
Yes.
Yes. Sachs.
No.
I'm going to vote yes. See that the motion carries. I believe it was 5-2.
5-2.
Yep.
We're on 91.
Moving on to item 91, it's the levels of service for the franchise collection contracts. We are going to take public comment first. Who do we have?
Okay, it is the company Great State Waste.
Oh, they need a second, so we will take them afterwards. We'll have staff do the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Gonsalves has a presentation. I just want to advise you that we expect to be putting these bid documents out on the street in September. So August is the last time we'll be before the board. In accordance with our policies and resolutions, the board has to approve all of these documents and all of the levels of service before they go out on the street. So that's why we're here today, is to get as much information as possible from the board so that we can finalize those documents to present to you in August. Of course, things can be amended in August if you wish to amend them, but it helps us at least get started on it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. We're obviously we'll skip the section on the Service Area 2, Service Area 5, because we've already covered it. And Paul, please.
Good morning again. So at previous board meetings, the board has made a few decisions on certain levels of service moving forward into the 2026 contract. There are a few items that were directed back at staff to bring forth before the board, one being the commercial collection rate, as well as some service options for the vegetation limits going into the next contract. So this slide summarizes the baseline services already approved by the board in previous meetings. As you know, we're going to remain twice a week on garbage. It'll be automated, semi-automated. We'll continue to use the dual stream system and collect once per week for recycling. Our bulk collection will be a 3-item limit, collected once per week. The board directed the staff to ensure that the customer service office for the proposers would be established within Palm Beach County prior to 30 days before the commencement of the contract. And the vegetation estimates, there was some direction by the board that if there were any estimates over 6 cubic yards, the first 6 cubic yards would be given at no cost. So for instance, as an example, a customer has 10 yards out, they request an estimate, the first 6 yards are given, the estimate is on the remaining 4 cubic yards. This slide presents the rationale for keeping the existing 6 cubic yard vegetation limit with the change to the estimate base fee for the excess over the initial 6 cubic yards. So basically, it would remain a 6 cubic yard limit if a customer, like I stated before, would request an estimate. Anything over 6 cubic yards, the estimate would be based on those cubic yardages. Now, one of the rationale for keeping the 6 cubic yard limit is if we increase the vegetation limit to 12 cubic yards or whatever the board deems necessary, it's going to result in higher collection costs. The increased rates for all residents within the service area regardless of need. It would reduce competition by attracting fewer haulers, and it would require a revision of our current ordinance 2019-022, as well as it would reverse pretty much 15 years of customer education trying to get customers to amend to the 6 cubic yard vegetation limit. Our current system allows flexibility, and for residents who need more than 6 cubic yards, they can pay for only what they use via the estimate process. No other residents would be affected by that. This slide proposes a monthly opt-in subscription for residents needing up to 12 cubic yards of vegetation collection, which would shift the additional cost to those who generate more waste. So this option basically says for residents who would like to opt in, they consistently put out 12 cubic yards or whatever the board deems necessary for the subscription service. This would provide a higher level service for those who need it. There would be no cost impact to residents who stay within a 6 cubic yard limit. And again, the costs are borne only by the subscribers to that service. The haulers would maintain a record of the subscribing households, allowing better tracking of large vegetation generators and the improved ability to plan out routes which allocate equipment efficiency, which I'll go through in a moment. So option 3 basically explains the broad impact of raising the standard vegetation limit to 12 cubic yards, which would include higher costs, reduced hauler competition, and operational inefficiencies. This would also require an amendment to our current ordinance. All residents would be allowed to place out 12 cubic yards of vegetation weekly. This would impact all residents regardless of need. The collection and disposal costs would significantly increase. Haulers would need to purchase more of the clamshell trucks to complete these routes. The clamshell trucks, as you know, are the trucks that have the boom and they pick up the larger quantity piles. It is a very expensive and it is the most inefficient piece of equipment the haulers have that operate in their fleet. They would need to purchase more of those to complete these routes if more residents were allowed to put out more than 6 cubic yards. So this slide just basically analyzes how larger vegetation limits affect the grapple truck efficiency, showing fewer homes can be serviced per load and more frequent dumps would be required. So there are 2 different trucks that the haulers typically operate for their clamshell. It's basically the 35 cubic yard clamshell trucks and the larger 55 cubic yard clamshell trucks. This graph just depicts if 20% of a 900 home route. So if the route consists of 900 homes, if only 20% of the residents put out the 12 cubic yards, one single 35 cubic yard truck would only be able to pick up roughly 3 to 4 homes if they put out 12 cubic yards before it would have to come to our yard, it would have to empty and then go back on route to finish their routes. Like I said, the need for one single truck, it would take them 60 revolutions of picking up the same amount of homes, dumping at our yard and coming back. For a 55 cubic yard truck, it would be roughly 36 revolutions. So typically right now the haulers operate roughly between 5 to 7, whether they own the trucks or they subcontract these trucks out to finish their current routes at 6 cubic yards. So they would need to almost double their fleet to maintain or keep up with the 12 cubic yard rate that residents would be allowed to put out. So right now, our system is intended to provide a base level of reliable, high-quality service at the lowest possible price that is adequate for most residents. The system allows those who want a higher level of service to pay for it without affecting what other residents in their service area pay. The changes the SWA has made over the years have been done to encourage competition for these contracts and to produce the lowest possible collection rates. To date, there are over 18,000 residents within the unincorporated area that have called for a removal estimate. Actually, I believe that number has increased. Last time I checked, it's over 19,000 that have utilized the $8 per cubic yard rate. So the current vegetation program has been successful, and to date, we've had no special magistrate hearing. This slide, it provides a comparison between the authority's proposed commercial collection rate and the current commercial rates charged by other municipalities. Just so you know, I think we've discussed it in the past, it's common practice for some municipalities and haulers when they bid on their rates to subsidize the residential with higher commercial rates. That has been a practice the authority has not partook in. We typically want to bid what it is, and the rate that staff has proposed this year for the upcoming contract is roughly $5. It is $5.50 per cubic yard. So I'm here for any questions that you may have.
So I guess I'll summarize a little bit. So there's a couple of things we're asking for in here. The first thing is some direction on what you want to do with vegetation, as it's something we've discussed a couple of times since last fall. Do you want to keep it the way it is? Do you want to increase it? You want to put in a subscription service? Do you want to add any other elements you might come up with that you think are appropriate? And additionally, we want to settle on, at least now, on the commercial collection rate at $5.50 a cubic yard. If we can do that, that can obviously be changed easily at the next board meeting if you want to. But as far as the vegetation goes, it's a complex conversation, and it has been, and it is every time we put one of these out to bid. So I'd appreciate any input the board has in providing some direction in that regard.
Mr. Pelowitz, because this has been a topic of concentration of mine and very important to my area, I'm actually going to speak first. I am not going to ask that we decide today on one of these current options. I would like it to get bid and then make a decision on that, because if we can bid it, then we can have more information on what we would be deciding on. And then we can decide if a subscription, right? Because we won't have those prices, and see what the haulers come back with.
So your suggestion is that we bid it both ways?
Yes, both ways.
And then
so that we would know. And also, I would like to see what I wanted to let you know, my fellow commissioners, where I stand on this. But now I'm going to let them see where they stand. So Commissioner Woodward is up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question would be, can we bid this out for different service areas allowed to have this, and then other service areas stick with the original 6 cubic yards? Or is this like a countywide decision?
No, I don't see any reason why you couldn't bid each service area with a different standard, but I'm going to ask Mike to kind of weigh in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd basically be requesting an alternate bid, maybe on one of the service areas, something of that nature, which is commonly done in bidding. You might get 2 separate bids for this service area, a specific service area, with one level of service or another level of service. Or I think we can kind of work on it and drafting the documents. I understand it's also going to affect other areas, but I think you can request bid alternates from the haulers.
Okay, for me, I would like to support Chair, and this one, I don't think for my service area and service area 4 and 5, it would be necessary to do this. And I think we could encourage whoever's going to bid on that new broader service area, if we could add some sort of a creativity or innovation on how they could come up with a good solution for this as part of the bid process, so that this service area has the most options possible. So we can, and we're only talking. I don't know if service area 1 would also service areas, but I don't think most of the south end, because we've had this discussion. This isn't really for every service area. There's 1 or 2 that we would be asking for alternate bids. So I would definitely support that. And I don't think, it's not the whole county that we need this for, just the areas that we do. So I would support having options.
Mayor Marino.
Thank you. Like Vice Mayor Baxter, I have a lot of area in my district that would benefit from probably a subscription. So finding out what that cost of the subscription would be. I know that we threw around some numbers the last time, but we're definitely would like some information as to what the fee would be. I guess my only question is, where do we stand in the bid process right now?
So right now we're in the developmental. We've got pretty much the contract drafted, and the documents are close. We've just got big holes in it. We expect to have the board finalize those documents in August, so that we can then put them on the street in September, with the objective of receiving bids several months later, usually in December, and then the board awarding the contract in February. That gives the winning bidders approximately 6 months to mobilize and ramp up and prepare, and if they're coming in from outside, to set up an office and everything else they need to do. So that's really the timeline for it.
Okay, I don't see the areas that don't have the trash issues like Vice Mayor Baxter and I have, that they should bear any cost. They should bear any burden of what our residents who live in the larger unincorporated areas with larger lots, that's the life they chose to lead. So if there's a way that we could have a good cost for what a subscription service would be, I'd appreciate that. Also, I know that there have been complaints about if somebody had a pile larger than 6 yards, it just didn't get taken. So when you have here that the first 6 yards are collected at no cost, and then there's an estimate-based fee for the addition, I'm not sure that that's actually what's happening. So can you expand on that a little?
So what happens is, if someone has more than 6 cubic yards, the pile gets tagged and nothing gets picked up.
Correct.
That's been since this contract. So there have been previous contracts where the hauler takes what they think is 6 yards from the pile and then puts that in the truck. The issues we had with that is the pile sits forever, because then more material gets added to it and more material gets added to it, and you end up with lingering piles. That's been the concern, and Indian Trails expressed a concern about that in the past too, about piles sitting out there forever. And people don't like them. So it's usually not the person who put it out that's complaining about it. It's the neighbors who are complaining about it, and then we field those complaints. So we put this in place with the ordinance, which is a hard 6 cubic yard limit, to establish this process where we'll tag the pile, and the tag notifies the customer to contact the Solid Waste Authority. They talk to our customer service reps. We explain to them their options, and then we seek to resolve the matter. That one of those resolutions is to work with the haulers to get them an estimate, to have the entire pile picked up. So that's where we are now. The alternative was what we did before, which is the hauler takes what they think is 6, and then comes back the next week. I think, we did it for a long time. It's not optimal because of the problems I stated, but clearly, if I don't think it's an either or in all these cases here. You could have the estimate program, and in addition to that, have the subscription service on top of it. And then, obviously, it's very doable to be able to get pricing under multiple scenarios in a bid process. The only thing I will let you know is that the service area, each service area, it's got to have the same levels and the same prices. So you can't just provide a higher level of service in, say, the acreage, and a different level of service in the eastern areas of service area 2. So that would be an issue. But other than that, we can get you the pricing that you want to make the decision that you want to make. Others have done it. Loxahatchee Groves bid it, I think, 2 ways when they did it a couple of years back, and they bid it, I think, at 6 and 12, right, Paul? Yeah. So it can be done.
Sure. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Just so you know, most of the smaller condensed areas in the district are the new service area 2 that you have outlined. Wellington has their own contract. Royal Palm Beach has their own contract. A lot of the lots in unincorporated area, I mean, we're talking even outside the acreage. We have little ranches. We have the ranchettes. We have a lot of acre plus lots in the unincorporated area. So this, I do agree with you. The level of service should be the same. I mean, even out in unincorporated areas of the Glades, they have large lots. And so they really could benefit from this as well. One thing I wanted to, that I forgot to mention, ask my board, and I wanted to ask you, Dan, if it was possible. So for the month of May, prior to hurricane season, maybe there's a compromise of having unlimited vegetation just for, again, once a week, just for the month of May in preparation for hurricane season. And then the second part to that would it be possible to get resilience grants, dollars, or something to sort of offset those costs?
Well, on the second part of that, I'll be honest, I don't know. On the first part, yeah, there are communities that do, what do they call it, amnesty? I know the city of West Palm Beach does it. It's certainly, we'd have to hear from the haulers' input in terms of how feasible they think that is in an area as large as the unincorporated area of the county. But it's been done before, so I'm not going to tell you it can't be.
Okay, and next was Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Chairperson. As a representative of an area that is all unincorporated, no cities, I think that what we've been discussing, to have a choice of what people want to do. If I know the 6 yards is an issue that we tackle every week. Fridays is our day in our area. But most people are very compliant. However, there are some who would prefer to pay more to have a larger yardage picked up by SWA. So I would suggest whatever that I would recommend in terms of my district to go with what we have been discussing, which is to estimate what it is, bid it out, and see what's the best for each area, knowing that everything would be the same cost, but still having an idea that people can pay more if they want to have greater than 6 yards picked up. So I go along with what all my colleagues up to now has said. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
So I want to tackle the comments that Mayor Marino mentioned regarding the picking up that initial 6 cubic yards. My opinion would be that we pick up what they assume is that 6 and leave the remainder, and the remainder gets tagged. I know I'm complicating things here a little bit.
No, that's what we do now. Well, that's what we're talking about now.
But that's what I would prefer. And then that way, 2 things happen. One, they got that first 6 picked up, and then now they know that they have to do something to remedy the situation. That way, that pile won't linger, as you're saying. So that would be my 2 cents there.
And they may have an idea of what 6 cubic yards actually is. 2 refrigerators.
Like that. It is. Right. So, but that's up to the person that's going to be picking it up, right? To make that call.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the way we did it for years.
Yeah.
So we have experience with it. It can be done. It has been done.
Right. So that would be, I mean, you tag it that way, they have to find a remedy for the remainder of it. As far as the options, Paul, Mr. Gonzalez, you mentioned that option 3, let me go back. Mr. Pelowitz, you mentioned that all levels of service for all areas have to be the same?
No, within each service area, it has to be consistent.
Okay. Then I would have a problem with my district being incorporated into S2. Because you just combined them. We just made a motion on this upcoming budget to combine them.
The eastern, I think they're already combined. The eastern area too is Lake Worth Corridor. If we can pull it up on the map right now.
Yeah, right there. So yeah, that's the
that-
majority of my district now got lumped into the western.
It has been in service area 2. I don't know where your district boundaries are. So
All right. So if you look here, my district would pretty much fall into 6 and a little bit of 1.
Right. Then yes,
Right.
that's now
So now
part of
you're
2.
lumping it into
6 is mostly Wellington.
yeah, but it goes all the way to the beach. So that's Green Acres, Palm Springs, Lake Worth. That's my
So 6 and 2 East is divided at Jog Road. So Jog East would be the east part of Service Area 2, and Jog West would be the Service Area 6 boundaries.
Right.
But as you stated, the next contract,
Moving
it
forward,
would all
can
be
you
one contiguous service area.
Put that up again, the future one. So with the proposed, now you're putting my district into SA2. And if we're going to provide a higher level of service there, my residents don't need that higher level of service. So I don't want them to be paying more in that particular district, in that particular area. So I would be in favor of a subscription based that if you need more than the 6, you pay for that. That would be my, and I'm all about inquiring and looking at that option, what the cost would be.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And so, or chair, mayor, whatever, vice mayor. I'm fine with your request to have it bid out both ways for service area 2, and we can have that discussion. I believe the 6 cubic yards for most people, most of the time is satisfactory, and on the occasion when they need more, they can go ahead and either, if it's on a regular basis, do a subscription, or if not, on the on the as needed basis to get that. Whether or not we leave the 4 above the 6 cubic yards behind, or take the whole, or leave the whole pile behind. I mean, I guess that's it. They're going to have to make 2 trips regardless, apparently. So I don't know if that saves, or I mean, that would be the only thing is is there any savings if they take that 6 cubic yards at that time and come back for the balance? I guess that would be.
Well, so the way it works now, like Mr. Pelowitz said, if a resident, I'll use 10 yards for an example, has a 10-yard pile, and they want the whole pile removed. So they pay at our current contractual rate $8, so it's an $80 pile to them. And with the current rates, we've had over 19,000 estimates, people who want to use that service. What we're doing now is essentially saying that same 10-yard pile is now going to cost you 32. So there is going to be a savings, and it would also, you would probably get more requests for some of these estimates Because if they know they can pay $32 as opposed to $80 for a 10-yard pile, they're going to save money. Only the people who requested the service would be affected, and it would be a reduction.
No, I understood that. I guess I meant a savings on the hauler side. That if that would be more cost effective for them.
So if they go into the contract knowing that the first 6 cubic yards is going to be free, they would have to include that in their bid rates. So they would incorporate that. It would definitely affect them because now, like I said, they're making less money on that 10-yard pile.
I understand that portion of it. What I'm trying to understand is whether they pick up the 6 on the first go around. If they pick the 6 up I'm following up on Commissioner Flores's comment, which was pick up the 6, leave the remainder behind. Is there any cost savings to the hauler to handle it that way? Is it more expensive? Is it cost the same? That's the question I would have, because ultimately if it costs them more, it's going to cost everybody else more. And what I believe is the right thing is that, in general, I mean, obviously there's some offsets and subsidies that happen because some people put out less garbage, some people put out more. But in general, I don't like to see the majority of the people having to subsidize the few. I would rather the few pay their own way. But so that's my question, and it may be negligible. It may not even there may be it may not matter because, as you said, they're going to have to make 2 trips. Right. For that pile.
So here's the issue, like Dan said earlier. Someone puts a 10-yard pile out, they pick up 6, tag the 4. Now that pile sits. Here's a couple of issues that we've ran up against in the past and why we made the necessary changes to the 6 cubic yard ordinance. A customer who has a 10-yard pile, 6 yards is noticeable. But a customer who clears their lot, puts out 20, 30 yards, and 6 yards is removed from that pile, it doesn't look like 6 yards was removed from that pile. So now they're calling customer service. They're telling us that the hauler did not take, they don't believe they took 6. We, in turn, have the hauler go back, and now it's a cost expense to them because now they're having to mobilize and go back and take another 6 cubic yards when they've already removed 6. And then, not to mention, go back to that 10-yard pile, like Dan's point, so you take 6, there's 4 remaining. Well, they get 6 yards each week, so now they're putting out another 6. So now they're still taking 6, and that 4 yards sits. And districts like Loxahatchee, Palm Beach Country Estates, Jupiter Farms, where those piles sit in those swales, that's where the erosion happens. So the grass dies, it sits forever, it's a rodent trap. When you got vegetation in a potential storm, it's flying debris because there's a certain portion of that pile that just doesn't get picked up because they keep putting out 6 yards each week. And so when that pile is finally removed, the grass is dead, it rains, it washes out the soil, and now they're claiming damage. So there is downsides to leaving any portion of the pile left on the ground.
I mean, I honestly don't believe we should, for a variety of reasons, to leave a pile on the ground. But I would assume it would have then be tagged. That 4 yards would have been tagged, and it now is up to the homeowner or resident to take care of that.
So the tag process now is basically just telling a resident that their pile is out of compliance. So there's a couple options, as Dan said, how they can fix that. They can remove some of it. They can request an estimate. But essentially, the tag at that point would just be to let them know we were here, we took 6. So there would not be any compliance with their piles. We would have
to then go to code. Code would have to come out.
We wouldn't be able to enforce it because it's out of compliance now. If they left it and then the next week we take 6, now it's within.
But you can't leave a pile out for a week.
Not under the current ordinance. But if we amend it with what somebody I don't remember who made the motion, but someone suggested, we would essentially lose our code enforcement capabilities.
Okay. Well, you've given me enough information that it's not something that I think that I would be supporting. I don't think most of our residents want to see piles sitting out there for weeks at a time. I mean, I know I get complaints in the past when that has happened. And as you say, as you mentioned, it's not by the homeowner who put out the pile; it's by the people who have to live around it. Okay, but if we, on the other hand, I have no problem with investigating and having the bid for the 12 cubic yards or whatever that is. And then lastly, is Mr. Pelowitz, on the amnesty, and because you and I have had discussions about how this amnesty program works in the cities, and I think it would be probably valuable for everybody in the board to understand how these cities are able to have these amnesty programs, and it may make more sense as it relates to the unincorporated area.
So it's a little complex, but so the cities that do it, West Palm is one of them, and there are others. We, on an annual basis, because the residents prepay on their assessment for vegetation collection, they pay for about 7 cubic yards on their assessment based on our published rate, which is $35 a ton. We multiply that out, and that's what they pay. Those credits go to the hauler, or in the case of the cities that haul their own, they go to the city. And so what happens is, like in the city of West Palm Beach, that they have a lot of credits that they potentially leave on the table because the generation that's put out on a regular basis is below the amount of credits they get. And so they have the opportunity, such as in West Palm's one I know about, is they have the opportunity to do these amnesties and to bring that material in, and they're under their credit, so there's no additional disposal cost to them at all. So that's part of the way they're able to do it, because they do have money they basically have credit on the table that if they don't use it by the end of the year, they're going to lose it. So that's an advantage they have. In the unincorporated area, what happens is the haulers, they receive the same credits, but they adjust their bids based on what the level of vegetation generation is based on their due diligence. They go out, they look at it, they look at records we provide, and so they determine whether they're above or below whatever that credit is. And so, for example, South County, service areas 3 and 4 down south, there are a lot of zero lot line, a lot of homes close together, a lot of HOAs. Their generation rate is not what it is in the acreage Jupiter Farms, Loxahatchee Groves, and other places like that. So what's going to happen here essentially is, right now, the haulers are basically moderating their bid depending on what they expect that generation to be. And so if we want to throw in an amnesty period, they're going to have to estimate what the impact of that is going to be in the unincorporated area and then factor that into their bids, which obviously they can do it. They're all smart folks, and a couple of them put in cards, so I'm sure they're going to talk about it too. So that's a potential. The difficulty is we have about 200,000 single-family homes in the unincorporated area, and there's going to be resource constraints if you try to do every area in the unincorporated area at the same time. So even if you wanted to do it, you would have to stagger it in such a way so that you don't have to have all of the available resources spread out all over the place trying to pick up giant piles in the same short period of time. So
Thank you, Mr. Pelletz. You also had your light on. Was there something else you wanted to talk to?
I was going to respond to something Commissioner Flores said, but now I don't remember what it was.
So when you remember, please let us know.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to piggyback off of what Dan said, typically what you see in these areas that do the amnesty period, they're all self-haul cities. So that's important as well. They're not having to pay any haulers anything extra to collect this debris. They pick it up themselves, whereas we subcontract all collection through all the unincorporated areas. So that would be another expense incurred. Just wanted to put that out there.
Right. It was just an idea. It doesn't sound like it's very feasible. And I do have a few cards from the haulers that I'm sure will let us know how unfeasible it is. Commissioner Flores.
So, Mr. Gonzalez, let's walk through this again. I'm a little slow today. I apologize. I'm only on my second cup of coffee. So today, somebody puts out 10 cubic yards. What happens? The truck shows up.
They tag the pile.
They tag the pile.
It's out of compliance.
It's out of compliance. They call.
They call, the number is on the tag, as well as some options on what they can do to fix the pile.
Okay, so
if
so
they
then-
want an estimate,
Yep.
they don't want to do anything, they don't want to touch it, they want to leave it as is, they'll call, request an estimate. The estimate is given on the entirety of the pile.
The entirety.
The entirety.
And that's where I wanted to get to. So, aren't they entitled to 6 cubic yards per week or per?
So that is a very complicated question, and if you bear with me for a second, I'll explain it. So as Dan stated, every resident is assessed. What you pay for on your disposal portion of your non-ad valorem assessment is roughly 6 cubic yards for the entire year. You only pay for 6 yards for the entire year.
Entire year.
The entire year. We, in turn, tell residents they can put that out each week, and we'll pick it up as long as they abide by the guidelines. So essentially, you're getting 50 times what you pay for if you just put it out 6 cubic yards or less. So that...
People don't understand that. People understand that they can put out 6 cubic yards per week.
They understand. I mean, that was part of the education process that I said 15 years. We've been explaining this process to a lot of residents, and after we sit down
No, but
with
they
them,
don't understand that they only pay for one.
I wouldn't say all of them know, but a good portion, if you've called our office, they know. And that's why when we send out the survey, the results come back in. They know what they pay for versus the service that they're getting.
But my point is, if the truck is there and they pick up the 6, which technically they're entitled to, then now they only have to call about 4.
Correct.
There is a price difference to our residents.
Yes.
So that's where I'm going with this. This is why I am in favor of them collecting the 6 and tag the 4, in my example, because that way the residents are saving some money. You see why I'm pushing that? Because in my head, remember, I'm slow today. I would prefer to save myself $50 because the difference, I think you said one would be 80, the other one would be 35.
32, yes.
32. I mean, to me, that makes sense.
That's what we're proposing moving forward. So for these estimates, that the 6 cubic yards be given to them at no charge, and they would just receive an estimate based on the second port, whatever's left. Now, again, depending on how you want to handle this, do we want to allow them to leave vegetation at the curb? Because what if that 10-yard pile is an 80-yard pile?
What would happen what would happen right now if they put 10? You tag it.
It's tagged.
Yeah, so then it would be the same policy.
But there's code enforcement behind it. So if they don't fix the pile, if they don't remove the pile, they don't have to use our service. They can use a third party. So however they want to remove it's up to them.
So, I would say once it's tagged, we would enforce it the same way that we're enforcing it today. Because we tagged it. We notified you. We picked up the initial 6. Now the other 4 is up to you.
So I'll explain that if you bear with me. So I'll use 20 yards, okay? Our code enforcement process mimics the county. So there is a time period. For instance, if you put a 20-yard pile out, we send you a notice. It's basically a courtesy notice, just letting you know that you're not within compliance of ordinance 2019-022. You need to fix it or remove it. That is a 10-day process. After 10 days, we go back out and re-inspect. So then if it's still there, if there's no compliance, they receive a notice of violation, which they have 20 days to cure. Now, the problem with the 20-yard pile example, we show up, they put 20 yards. We take 6 off that 20-yard pile. Now we got 14 yards. We send them a notice of violation, or first we send them the courtesy letter first. So now we allow another 10 days. So from that 14 yards, another 6 is removed. So now we have 8 yards. So by the time we go back, now that 8 yards, they're still not in compliance.
Once you tag it, I'm not saying you pick up again the other 6. So the initial 6, in my head, the initial 6 is now the other 14 is up to you.
So the hauler picks up and tags from that 20-yard pile this week. The customer takes the tag off the pile. When the hauler comes back around that following week, when they got 1,200 homes on their route, they don't know if that pile was tagged the previous week.
So their system doesn't notify them that this home?
No. There's no system that would allow them to do that because residents can put out or remove vegetation at will.
So what happens today if that 20 pile, we didn't pick it up, it got tagged and they removed the tag?
If they remove the tag, if there's more than 6 yards, it's still out of compliance.
So he's going to get tagged again.
It's going to get tagged again.
So it would be the same thing.
It wouldn't be the same thing because, like I said, by the time that third week comes into play, now the pile's within compliance and there's no enforcement capabilities.
Well, then let's work this the other way. Then we credit them the first 6.
That's what we're proposing.
So maybe it's the other way around. We just, on that tag, we credit the first 6 cubic yards.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm fighting for our people. I mean, if I get 6 cubic yards, I want my 6 cubic yards.
Yes, exactly.
That's-
May I?
Yes.
Or Commissioner Sachs, actually, do you want to do this?
You know what it comes down to is that I'm in charge of garbage at the house. All right, I know. If I put out 8 cubic yards, I don't expect the hauler to take 6, leave the other 2. I got a mess, and he's got to come out and figure out, oh, this is 6. Oh, that other. No. He's going up and down that neighborhood. They got business to do. This is garbage. Okay, this is not chemistry. So if I'm out of compliance, the entire yard. Now listen up, Sir Commissioner here. The entire pile is out of compliance. Not 6, but the other 2 is out of compliance. No. 8 is out. The entire load of garbage is out of compliance. And I am responsible. So I come out, I pull the tag. There's a pile of garbage out there that is going to spread around the neighborhood. People are going to get upset. I don't care. So I put another 6 out the next week. I am again out of compliance and I should be fined. After you get fined a couple of times, you figure it out. So we cannot expect our haulers. They're out there. They're moving fast. And they've got to pick up compliance or non-compliance. Even if it's 7, they don't pick up 6 and leave 1. It's out of compliance, and that's the way it is, because it's a business, and it's a good business. Y'all do. I'm telling you, this is so complex. I don't know how you keep it all straight. I really don't.
Well,
so I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Gonzalez.
And
Some of us need to take the garbage out a little bit.
And with all due respect, Commissioner Sachs, if you put out 8 cubic yards and your hauler's not picking up 8 cubic yards, me and that hauler has a problem.
No, it's
we
okay.
don't-
Look.
They don't split hairs. It's not an exact
No, they
science.
don't. They don't, because there's dogs out there, there's neighbors, there's all cars coming and going. But we have to know, and our residents have to know, this is foliage, this is garbage, it's going to go all over the neighborhood, it's going to create a problem. Then we're going to have attorneys coming in ready to sue us because they think that we are destroying the swales, right? So we all have to be together on this. We all have to be together on it. So you're doing a great job. If I want to pay more to get 20 yards out, then I should have that opportunity to do it.
So that's
And I
the
appreciate
current opportunity in the current contract. So what we're doing is, if you want to pay for more right now, you could pay for more. You could pay for the estimate. But what we're doing is to to help the residents even more comply with the program is you're going to be paying more, but you're going to be paying less. So that 10 yards won't cost you $80 if you request an estimate. It's going to cost you $32 because you're going to get the first 6 for free, removed off the estimate.
Amen. Go.
Okay, so
That's what I wanted to hear.
Amen.
Just for the record, I failed math for Marines, Commissioner Morris. Just
I told you it was slow today.
do you want to go first, Mayor Marino? You are the last. After
No,
Mayor
no, no.
Marino.
Let's go ahead and call up our
Oh,
haulers.
no, it's not a vote. We have cards that we're going to do first. Mr. Saban.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and staff. Jeff Saban, Government Affairs for WM, formerly Waste Management. Thank you for this opportunity. I think you're on the right track. We're supportive of staff's recommendation. And I think
Which recommendation?
yeah, right. The yard waste. It's taken years to condition residents as to the form and format and how it works. And what Dan said as well, and so did Paul, the credits.
that's a big issue, especially when we're preparing to submit to your solicitation, how they get assigned, the weighting of those, and each area somewhat is different in terms of generation. So we have to do all those calculations as a hauler to prepare for that. But we support that. And the other thing with the subscription, we love tags because that's a communication, that's a leave behind that residents get communication and they better understand, and it helps not having to make a phone call. That's the other thing I think is helpful for both of us, the authority and the haulers. So, but the abusers of the yard waste, it's the landscapers and the tree trimmers. And that gives the resident an option, right? If they see what the estimate is, and then they say, hey, include removing it as you go to the tree trimmer. Hallelujah. That's wonderful. But for those self-trimmers that we know a lot, they will leave it out, and the current program's working well, and I think the proposed as well. I did want to say on the other merging of the two areas, merging 5 into 2, that we have had preliminary discussions. Am I too close to this? A little bit? Okay. That WM is positive about it. We haven't finalized, nor do we have the authorization on how it's going to work out financially, but both parties are interested in making this happen. But we'll certainly work out those terms and those rates. So I wanted to put that on the record. Thank you very much.
Mr. Saban, before you sit, a few questions. So if we want at least the 6 cubic yards picked up, understanding there could be a fluctuation of a couple, it's really hard to determine an exact amount of 6 cubic yards, and then the rest of the pile is left. Had you done that before?
Yes, and I can probably speak for the rest of the haulers. Our clamshell and grapple folks, they don't have measuring 6, and they don't measure. It's a visual thing. But yes, we pick up the 6 cubic yards, and most of the time it's more than 6. And a lot of our larger trucks and areas, we don't want to have to go back. If we're there on that street, we want to leave the street clean. So we don't measure the 6. And we get a pretty good feel of the neighborhoods and what people generally and regularly, routinely put out. So we work into a system. It helps us do our routing. We pretty much know how to deploy those resources to those areas. The ones that generate the most, obviously, we have to send out additional resources, but that obviously would be captured in the bid, those additional costs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joseph Sandora.
Morning, Madam Chair, Vice Mayor, Board. Joseph Sandora, FCC Environmental Services. We service areas 3 and 4 right now currently. We have the 2 largest service areas in the county. And I would just ask you to approve the CAC recommendation for service number 1. I've been working in this county for 30 years. I've seen unlimited service in the acreage in Jupiter Farms where people would put out 100-yard or 200-yard piles. I would say to you that the best way to keep the cost down would be service 1. We need predictability of what's going to be put out there. I think the current situation with the 6 yards, if it's over 6, tagging it and providing an estimate is currently working great. If we did go to the 6 yards for free and the paying for the additional, I think that would be great as well. As Mr. Saban said, we're not going to be sticklers on the 6 yards. More than likely, we always take more than 6 because we don't want to go back, and we want to take care of the residents. The less calls, the better for us. And I would say that when you start doing all these different things and bid pricing for this and that, it's just going to raise the cost. Amnesty, we don't have extra trucks that sit in the yard all year long waiting for that 1 month. We're going to have to bring in subcontractors which is going to increase the cost to the residents. So I would say to you to keep the cost down would be go to service one.
I think you're referencing option one.
Yeah. Option one, yes, thank you. Everybody's idea of 6 yards is going to be different. My idea of 6, your idea of 6, your neighbor's idea of 6. So we tried the 6 yards before of taking 6 yards and leaving the rest, and all it did was create phone calls, and the driver only took 2 scoops and left. So it doesn't work. I think the authority has done a great job on training the residents, and they know what to expect. We get very few complaints in 3 and 4, so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, I don't think we were talking about adding this to 3 and 4, were we?
I don't believe so. I think we were talking about leaving 3 and 4 kind of the way it is, and only with the difference of the credit for the first
Correct.
6 yards. But if the board was to opt for a subscription type program, you could probably offer that anywhere.
Yes, we do the estimate anyway.
You'd be an on-call, kind of just, subscription-based. They would handle that. Just like the estimate, really. It's the same
Yes,
way.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Last card we have is Great State Waste. And I believe these presentations go along with this card.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Baxter, Commissioners, Executives. Thank you for the opportunity this morning to present Great State Waste. Great State Waste is a small business, women-owned, Palm Beach County-based, full-service
Can you
roll-off and
identify
grab.
yourself, please?
I'm Jeff Mansfield. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Great State Waste is a small business, women-owned, Palm Beach County-based, full-service roll-off and grapple organization. Most of its founding pillars come from the north, where we started and built the largest independently owned roll-off heavy haul company in the state of Michigan. We launched over 60 routes every day, as well as a half dozen routes at night to execute over 200 loads per day into the market. Our core focus was managing just-in-time logistics and providing industrial waste management services in the solid waste and production scrap steel industry. Our clients included General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, as well as many Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 suppliers for the automotive industry. We also provided services to commercial and residential sectors of the market as well. We are well-versed in moving heavy haul volumes and keeping schedules satisfied. With our efforts, we manage over 600,000 tons of waste and recyclables annually. Our ownership team, derived out of many quality years with quality people. I couldn't be more proud to be affiliated with these folks up here. For the sake of time, I will skip mentioning them by name. Down here in South Florida, we don't have any automotive plants that I've found or steel factories. So here in Palm Beach County, Great State Waste provides roll-off services. We offer containers from 10 to 40 yards. If called on by the majors, we would provide compactor services. We are well-versed in that. Additionally, we offer grapple services for the construction trade or to service the residential markets. We have both size trucks that were mentioned here today. We've also begun expanding into site cleanup. We specialize in offering concierge service programs to manage high volumes. Our first service endeavor here last year was when the hurricane hit, and that's when we began to help the great state of Florida. Since we started Great State here in Palm Beach County, we've taken our experience into business and have procured important relationships in the market. We have built relationships with large construction companies. We have built relationships with important home builders. We've been blessed with many relationships with commercial and light industrial trade partners. And we are ready to take the next step. We're ready to get back into the high energy and the high volume waste with the high pace every day. So long story short, we are ready to partner with the SWA. We set up shop last summer. To date, we have spent over $3 million in new equipment and infrastructure. Today, our plans are to spend that and beyond to ramp up and become a trusted subcontractor to the majors and a trade partner to the contract holders with the SWA. We've learned, we've grown, we have a footing, we understand the market. We think we're ready to do business, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you be bidding on the current outgoing bids that the SWA will be releasing?
I would assume so. We've been ramping application. We've met with the majors. That's our absolute goal, is to serve them, to help you grapple, roll off, compactors, whatever they decide.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
That is the end of public comment. So I'm going to wrap up what we've discussed today. And I believe with one or there might have been two exceptions. I think we've all pretty much agreed that we would like at least the minimum of 6 cubic yards collected and then tagged if it wasn't all collected. So you want it to be left? Excuse me,
May
Mayor
I?
Marino, go ahead.
I believe from the description of waste getting left and then other waste getting piled in and then the 10 days and the 20 days, the pile ends up doing exactly what was described by the folks that were here from Sir Wicked, killing the grass and all that. What I would suggest is the tagging and the pickup, but crediting the first 6 cubic yards. So you take all 10 at once, but you're only actually paying for 4. You're not paying for 10 because we're crediting the 6. Because
just because I live in the area where this occurs regularly, it actually, by just tagging it and then making residents call, some don't always call right away, it actually leaves the debris on the swell longer than them taking it initially. It causes more damage than them actually taking the 6, which could be roughly 8 or so, and not having to tag it later. So I personally see that as more of a hindrance to, Mr. Saban, would you mind coming back up here, please?
It's always a tough topic.
I didn't mention, is this on?
It doesn't sound like it.
Hello, can you hear me now?
No, hit the button.
There you go.
There we go. Got the green light. I didn't mention the fact that I had an associate with me, Barbara Herrera. She's also public sector government affairs for WM in this area, and she covers actually District 5. So, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So how long do those piles, once getting tagged, generally speaking, they sit there? Because we've literally had people burning them. So
yeah, in our area that we serve, and I'm not the operations folks that can give you the accurate response exactly. I apologize. So, I would rely on the operations folks. I'm government affairs, so I know the concept obviously, and that we're supportive of the existing.
well, I believe he had different service areas than this one, which was my concern.
To answer your question, the Solid Waste Authority gives us 72 hours to go out to the resident's home and provide that estimate. So it's in a timely manner. If we don't, we risk being fined. So
It's still a few days.
correct, it's within 72 hours. But we're out in the area every day, so it's typically within that 72 hours.
All right, Commissioner Powell, or excuse me, actually Mayor Marino was first.
No, I'll wait. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For clarification, Mr. Gonzalez, I think, and maybe help me clear this up, the issue we're harping on is 10 feet, 10 cubic feet, 10 cubic.
6 cubic yards.
6 cubic yards, and then we're talking about, well, if it's 10 cubic yards. But I think I understand from your conversation, and help me if I'm off base here, that a lot of times it's not 10 cubic yards. So they're not taking 6 and leaving 4. A lot of times it may actually be, it might be helpful if you explain that maybe a lot of times it's 20 cubic yards.
Sure.
And they come in and get the 6, or it's 12, it's double or triple, and that is where you have the challenges. Can you, am I understanding that incorrectly or correctly?
No, that's correct. So right now, as it stands, anything over 6 within a reliable limit, 8 cubic yards, like the haulers have told you, they pretty much take it. They don't want to have to come back for it. And it's not an exact science, but anything over 6 currently is non-compliant. So what happens is the haulers would tag that pile. One of two things would happen. The resident would then in turn call us, because a lot of times it's an education thing. Residents didn't know that they were only allowed to put out 6, or that there was a 6 cubic yard limit to begin with. So they would reach out to us. We would explain the collection guidelines. And then if they want to request an estimate, they'll do so. If they don't want to request an estimate, they want to fix it, they have the opportunity to remove the excess, and then 6 yards is taken the following week. Now, we have a process where we have field reps in the area that go out. So they're driving around with the haulers. So if they see a non-compliant pile, it's taken care of. We measure the pile. We take the necessary precautions on sending them the courtesy letter. It's documented. And so that way these piles don't sit out on these swales for a long period of time.
Mayor Marino.
So I guess the quick question is, do the haulers report to the authority how many people they've tagged and where they've tagged them? Or is it just they've left the tag and it's up to the residents to follow through?
Yeah, so the tag itself is an education piece. So if the residents read the tag and they see what their options are, why their pile was not compliant, because there's check boxes. If it says, for instance, you may have a log in there and they're not allowed to pick up logs. So they'll remove that log. There's no need to call anyone. The next service day, the pile is removed. If the resident wants to call for an estimate, or they just don't understand why it wasn't picked up, or they're content, they think that they have 6 yards. So we go out, we investigate, we inspect, and then we communicate with the customer directly. And then we explain, your pile's not compliant, how much you have, what you can do to fix it.
And you say the next service day. What is that?
It would be, so for instance, if your service day, because you get vegetation collection once a week, if it's on Wednesday, if you're tagged this Wednesday, your next service day would be the following Wednesday, if you brought the pile into compliance. Now, if you want an estimate, like Mr. Sandor said, they have to provide an estimate within 72 hours to have it removed.
And so once the estimate is given, is the pile picked up the next service day, or is the pile picked up randomly between the estimate and the service day?
So it's within 24 hours after they pay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I agree with Commissioner or with Mayor Marino. I think this, and I think everything else that we're recommending, so that they get the credit for the 6 cubic yards. They will, that we're going to do the in a couple of the areas, we'll have dual bids or alternative bids so that we can see the costs. If they want to go to 12 cubic yards, I'm fine with that. I think, in terms of how this gets handled, I agree. I mean, and in fact, I don't know if it works this way at Solid Waste Authority, but I know, like in the city of West Palm Beach, if we put out a big pile and we know it, which we do because we put it out, we can call in advance and tell them, and they give us a price, and then it just gets picked up on our regular day. So,
So yeah, we have the same system
option
here.
here.
The difference is they bill on your utility bill. That's why you don't have to pay anything. They'll just bill it to you directly. Whereas we don't do that. You're billed on your non-ad valorem assessment. You'll have to pay the hauler directly. That's why there's a 72-hour window.
Okay, but they can, if they put it out and they know they put out 20 cubic yards and they want it picked up, and they want an estimate, they can just call in advance and let you know that's what they need done.
Yes, many of the customers who use the estimate-based system are repeat customers. They know the rate because, like Mr. Sandor said, the haulers are out en route. They don't have to mobilize. They don't charge you anything extra for that. Because of that low contractual rate, it makes sense to use them, because hiring a third-party person is just going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the pricing is very favorable compared to having someone else come out and haul it away. And then at least you also know it ends up in the right place, because unfortunately sometimes we see when people call people, they find online or whatever to come move stuff out. And I've had this happen where they pick things up and then they just go find a vacant lot and dump it. So.
Yeah, that's the third party. Not talk about. Okay, so we're going to modify my previous words. We're going to give a minimum of the 6 cubic yard credit if the pile is larger, to bid it that way, than 6 cubic yards as determined by. We are going to bid it both ways, 6 cubic yards and 12. I would like it if we just set it at the bid, the option of if we just set it at 12 or if we set it at 6 with the subscription to get to the 12.
So you want to bid it? You want to, first of all, do we want to bid it both ways in every service area?
No, just, I think in Mayor Marino's and my service area.
Maybe Commissioner Sachs.
And would you pull up the new map, please? Because we're changing service areas now.
We can do it for both areas. We can do it. I guess it depends what you want. I mean, getting a price probably just getting a price for something you might not do is probably not going to hurt you.
Okay.
One thing I would just like to advise you that a lot of your service areas are blended.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting it for service area 2, it does affect other commissioners on the panel.
Right. Well, we're getting pricing.
Right.
Okay. So we'll come back, if that's the consensus, we'll come back in August with the bid structured to request 6 and 12 prices.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is, do you also want a subscription price
Of
if
having
you
the
choose
staying at
to
6?
stay at 6
Mhm.
and then apply the subscription for if people want it?
Correct.
If they want a general level of service. And similarly, do you want to maintain the yardage rate for excess for people who periodically, rarely, instead of them having to subscribe to something on a monthly basis, to just get that estimate once?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that answered all your questions as far as the different options went. Have we missed anything?
Yes, that answered that. I guess on the SMWBE program right now, what we'll come to you with is the service area 6 that was the MWBE service area will become service area 5, SBE preference service area. And then on the commercial rate, we're recommending $5.50 a cubic yard. The current rate is $4.32. It's about a 27% increase, but we do expect the rates to all go up somewhat. And so we think that's fair based upon our numbers, and it's still well below what the other cities are charging.
Attorney, do we need separate motions on all these, or is this just direction?
I think it's direction as long as the board is in agreement with what Dan is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't see any objection. Commissioner Weiss, do you have your light on? No. Okay, he does not. I believe that is all.
Oh, all right.
We're next item.
Next item.
91, simple, should be quick. The authority has a debt service reserve. It's required to be maintained at a certain level. Based on average debt service looking forward, we're about 2.6 million short of where it needs to be. On October 1, we're recommending transfer of that amount of money from the unrestricted general reserve to the debt service reserve. It is simply a transfer from one bank account to another.
Is there a motion? Second. We have a first by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Commissioner Sachs. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 6-0. Mr. Pelowitz, do we have any other scheduled matters?
No, we don't. Just thank you.
Thank you. Comments by General Counsel?
No comments?
Thank you, sir. Number 12, do we have any comments by the staff? No comments? Thank you. Any board comments? We will start with Commissioner Weiss. No comment. Mayor Marino?
No comments.
Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I would like to appoint Mario Guzman to the Solid Waste Authority Citizens Advisory Committee as representative for District 3.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Powell.
Yes, thank you. yesterday I did not wish Teresa Lawrence a happy birthday from my office, so I'd like to wish her a happy birthday today. And the other comment is everybody get ready, get excited. This Sunday, the biggest day of the year. That's right, Father's Day. So be excited. I'll be speaking at Grace Temple, which is a big deal. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers and future fathers and former fathers, and just get ready. Thank you.
So, Commissioner Powell, you beat me to it. Yes, I want to reiterate Happy Father's Day to all the fathers this Sunday. Looking forward to it. Hope everyone gets to spend the day with family. Our next regular meeting date is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. Without any objection, meeting is adjourned.
Stay a little